tonight, World in Action reports direct from the United States. A report on a nation in moral torment.
Exactly 100 years ago yesterday, Abraham Lincoln made a fundamental declaration for the first time that every American will be free and equal.
Everybody wants freedom. I know I want freedom.
Yesterday, 150 million Americans examined that declaration, and most of them knew that it had been betrayed. Individuals making thousands in cities stretching from Boston to Los Angeles rallied to meetings, gathered to mourn for 4 Negro girls who last Sunday were blown to bits by a bomb as they worshipped in the town of Birmingham, Alabama. In many cities, the mourning became a protest, perhaps the most massive America has ever known. We attended the rally in New York's Foley Square.
Not been stopped by dogs. We have found that when the dogs bite our people in Birmingham or in Mississippi, we bleed all over the country. We have found that the fire hoses that roll women over in the streets merely build up the demand for freedom in New York and Chicago and California.
It is significant that this protest by and for the Negro is no longer a strictly Southern thing. It's a nationwide tide of feeling. For this reason, World in Action chooses a Northern Negro to reflect as typical the troubles of his times. Strangely, perhaps, he's a comedian. His name, Dick Gregory. Gregory is working tonight in Washington, the scene only 4 weeks ago of the American Negro's biggest demonstration.
Hey, y'all. I wouldn't have missed that march for nothing in the world. And we got good reviews, too, baby. A lot of folks were surprised we didn't do that thing. You know? Some of them old papers I read going into the march looked like they was kind of hoping for it. Hey, remember the day before the march, all the papers say, they coming. Well, that march went off so good, it said, we left. Yeah. Oh, it started off with us and ended up with America. Yeah. Oh, it was a great day. No way, can't get around that day. It's a beautiful day. Did you realize what we pulled off here? And the whole world is shook up over. Like we came to Washington strong, baby, 210,000 with a bad count. I'm waiting on Ebony to come out so I can really find out how many of us there. Do you really realize what happened that day? 210,000 of us showed up, baby, with a 300-year-old gripe and didn't fight. Them cats started vicious wars over a weekend border dispute. Well, everyone was impressed. So a newspaper reporter, a friend of mine, said, Greg, I understand you're going to take your wife and family. I said, yeah. He said, well, Greg, you know I dig you. You know, that's, that relation. He likes me, not y'all. He's my friend. You know. I can move next day or two, but you better not. You know. He was very concerned. He said, Greg, I know you dig the cause, but I don't think you should take your small kid to Washington because it could go. Man, I knew how that march was coming on. I haven't been to us for 31 years for nothing. I've used those years well, baby. And I knew damn good and well we wasn't going to fight. We couldn't fight. The first time in the history of the world a bunch of colored folks ever been invited anywhere. And they thought we was going to fight. Think we going to pay round-trip plane fare to come all the way here to fight. We can go to any tavern on the weekend and do that for nothing. You know what really bugs me? They just do us any old, close up the liquor stores. Yeah. Can you believe they're going to close up the liquor store? I was glad. And they don't know what's going on. They announced the liquor store is going to be closed 2 weeks ahead of time. Man, people that didn't even drink brought about it. Everybody clear off the corner. I want everybody off the corner.
Dick Gregory makes his fellow Negroes laugh at their condition, but his jokes and their laughter cover 300 years of bitterness. Dick Gregory, as one of the acknowledged leaders of his people, has been arrested and flung into jail himself. He explains how he became involved.
And I laid up in my hotel bed up north one day, and I decided that I had to get involved in this great struggle in the South, simply because every time a Southern Negro would kick a door of racial prejudice in, there would be one less door my kids and my loved ones had to kick in, and I want no man kicking in all the doors for my family. This sounded good at 2 o'clock in the morning, but by the time my plane was supposed to take off at 8:15 that morning, I had talked myself out of it because I was afraid. And the only reason I think I decided to get on that plane that morning is I laid in my hotel room and I realized that if America was to go to war in the morning, I'm going. And then I thought, if I can subject myself to go to a foreign country, lay on some cold dirt, take a chance of losing my life to guarantee some foreigner a better way of life than my own family has in America, then it's a must that I get involved. And this is when I decided that this great problem is worth dying for. And as this great social revolution picked up and went on through, eventually I was arrested in Birmingham, which was a very horrible feeling. I think the worst feeling in the world is to have to go to jail for right. When they slam that steel door and turn that key and you realize that you might get out in the morning, but you got to spend the night there. I spent 4 days in jail in Birmingham, and then I found out that how we up north gives the Southerner the back end of this racial problem. Not that he do not deserve the biggest part, but upon leaving Birmingham, coming back to my hometown, Chicago, Illinois, they gave us a parade permit to demonstrate in protest against what happened in Birmingham, and then 3 months later, when we demonstrated against what was happening in Chicago, I ended up going to jail in Chicago too. Not only going to jail, I spent 11 days there in the Chicago jail.
To understand the depth and the nature of the Negro protest today, it's helpful to know the attitudes of a man like Dick Gregory. He's in his early 30s. He's married, and he has 2 daughters aged 4 and 2. We went to Washington's Howard Theater in the middle of the American capital's sprawling Negro section, and between shows talked to him in his dressing room. First, the story of his life.
Starting off, I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, October the 12th, 1932, which will make me 31 years old this year. There was 6 kids in the family. I had a father for a while, and then he left, and which threw the whole family on relief, which aggravated me to a great amount when I found out we were poor, and I found out people were laughing at us, until my mother told us one day that we weren't poor, we were just busted. And she explained to us that to be poor is a mental condition, and to be busted is a temporary situation. One you can grow out of, the other you can't. From there, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, very poor, but we were very happy because of the attitude of my mother. I attended grade school there, attended high school, where I went out for the track team, and not knowing at the time when I went out for track team, not having no athletes in my family, I was one of the fastest high school milers in the country. I graduated from high school in 1952 and received an athletic scholarship to Southern Illinois University, which I decided to take. There, I was very lucky and running because I branched out not only to the mile and the half mile, but the 3 miles and the longer distance races. And in 1953, I was rated third in the nation in the half mile for small schools. The time was 1 minute 51 and 4/10 seconds. In 1954, I was very lucky again because I became the first Negro in the history of the 100-year college to receive the Outstanding Athlete of the Year award there. I left Southern Illinois University in 1956. I went to Chicago to get a job, and upon getting a job, I found out that I didn't like working for a certain party or any group of people where my salary was set, because I found out life wasn't a set salary. One week you need $5, the next week $15, the next week $500. So I began to look for something that I would have more freedom and liberty of making income, that it wouldn't be set. In 1958, I walked into a nightclub for the first time in my life only to see a show. And I'm sitting there in the nightclub listening to the MC. It dawned on me what a very marvelous individual the MC is. That he can come out, speak, make people laugh, make people forget about their own problems, worldly problems. And everyone seemed to be gathered there for one common reason, to enjoy themselves and have a good time. And this is when I first decided that I wanted to go into show business. 2 weeks later, I was working in a nightclub at $5 a night, which was 3 nights a week, which my take-home pay was $15 a night if I didn't drink. And then in 1961, it broke for me. They brought me into the Playboy Club. I went to Playboy Club on January the 9th of 61. January the 17th of 1961, Time magazine did a 2-page article on the 17th of January. It hit on the 19th of January. I was on the Jack Parr show. My salary at the Playboy Club on January the 9th was $250 a week. And I figured that this was all the money in the world. And I was just so grateful and just could never dream that I would ever command $250 a week. After the 3 shots on the Jack Parr show, before the 1st of February, my salary had jumped from $250 a week to $5,000 a week. And for some reason, I knew I had arrived.
It was very impressive. You realize the head of the Ku Klux Klan called me up the next morning after the march? And he called, he said, "Greg, I just want to tell you something."
Whole world was impressed. He must in the Klan. By God, we have to take our sheet off to you.
Gregory was able to strike it lucky. Any Negro counts himself lucky if he can escape into show business or sport or the fight game. Those are his escape routes from poverty. Most Negroes manage no such escape. Instead, they get the menial jobs at the bottom. They form the unskilled base of America's economic pyramid. Mr. Raymond Rivera, an employment officer in New York, explains why.
The bulk of the Negroes concentrated in unskilled jobs, I believe, comes about for 3 or 4 reasons. One is the climate of industrial attitude which has prevailed in the past years, where industry just has not been ready to hire the Negro. 2 is a lack of training, which stems from 2 possibilities. One is a lack of motivation because there have not been the jobs available. And 2, the Negro has lacked the possibility to secure educational opportunities. He has not been able to go to school for a lack of money. He has not been able to secure the formal kinds of training which are necessary to move into these jobs should the opportunity have been available. 3, there has been a lack of experience, which of course is based on the lack of training. Without training, he can't secure a job, and without the job, he can't secure experience. This forms the vicious circle. And last, I believe the concept of the last hired, first fired would sum up the position of the Negro at the bottom of this pyramid.
No, I mean that. A lot of people think it takes a lot of guts for one of them cats to jump one of them rockets and they blast him off. Man, that ain't no true guts to me. True guts to me would be for one of those astronauts to chicken out 5 minutes before flight time.
Gregory lives in style and comfort on the south side of Chicago. In this, he is again lucky. For most Negroes, life begins and ends in the slums. As children, their playgrounds are the streets. This is true of the northern cities as well as in the notorious South. To describe their homes, Negroes borrow a word from Jewish history, and the word is ghetto. The most famous is Harlem, the Negro village in the heart of New York. Described now by Dr. Edward Lewis, longtime campaigner for Negro equality and director of the Urban League.
This is a ghetto of 400,000 people living between 110th to 155th Street from Hudson River to the Harlem River. Housing in this area very often is rat infested. There are many violations, including a lack of paint, a lack of good plumbing, and a lack of the minimum essentials for what we all regard as decent housing. I hasten to say that not every house in this area is blighted, but certainly a large portion of them are so, and this is what makes it one of the outstanding ghettos in the world.
Constantly during his 60-minute act, Dick Gregory returns to the theme of last month's Negro March in Washington.
The whole world was impressed in that march on the 28th of August. Even when King was talking to Kennedy yesterday, Kennedy whispered in his ear and said, "Hey, would y'all march on Cuba for us?" King told me this, I told him, tell him, yeah, by way of Birmingham.
Gregory's obvious pride in the Washington demonstration is shared just as obviously by his 20 million fellow Negroes.
Hey, Tex.
Yeah.
Did you go to the March on Washington?
Yeah, I was there, Eddie.
Charlie, did you go to the March on Washington?
No, I wasn't able to go, Eddie, but one of the fellows from the shop went to represent the shop. And we all watched it on TV.
You know what I liked about it?
What?
Although there were 250,000 people there,
Right.
they conducted themselves with dignity.
Right.
And although all the masses of people were there, and we showed that we can be together without violence,
Right.
without trying to hurt anyone, just to prove a point, they are still throwing bombs, killing our little children, raping our women.
Right.
Now, what more do we have to show? Do they actually want us to go and get weapons from behind the closet doors or something and start fighting them? Is this what they want us to do? Well, I'll tell you the truth. I am not going to fight them that way.
But you know, only in America could we witness what we witnessed on the 28th of August. Did you know that? Only in America would a Negro get on a supersonic jet plane in L.A., fly all the way into Washington, D.C. in protest against riding on the back of a bus.
We asked Dick Gregory about his feelings when he first realized that in the United States there are two kinds of people, white ones and colored ones.
Reflections of being a Negro. I actually was never aware that I was a Negro until I was about 14 years old, mainly because I guess we were too poor. We lived in a Negro neighborhood, had gone to Negro school, had shopped in Negro neighborhoods, gone to Negro movies. The funny thing about money, you have to have a dime in your pocket to be able to get on that bus or streetcar before you can find out they're segregated. But once I found out, I think the great thing about the Negro in America, we never warn our kids about this. And this is very good simply because a Negro kid will not grow up distrusting all white people. And this was a beautiful thing that I can remember in growing up and then finding out that I was a Negro and being very surprised when I went home to tell my mother about certain things that had happened to me, only to find out she wasn't surprised at all. She knew about these things. And then as I grew up and developed my mind and my thoughts, then I wondered what a wonderful thing this is, that Mom or none of the older people would actually stress this to the kids. Today, it's not going on in the Negro families. Mainly, I imagine this is why the American Negro is probably the most loyal person in America. We love America, we understand that we have a hard fight, but we are not too worried in one respect because we know definitely we're going to win. Truth on your side, when you have justice on your side, and when you have the added ingredients of the United States Constitution, you don't have to get violent because you can't get much violent than having these three things working with you. Many of us are aware that a man can kill us wrongly, but he can only win right. And we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that we have right, truth, justice, and the United States Constitution on our side, and we know that we're going to win this battle.
There are those in America who say the Negroes will win only with violence. A forthright spokesman of this school is Malcolm X, a leader of the extremist black Muslims. The black Muslims cannot imagine and do not want any accommodation with the whites. More responsible Negro leaders do not court violence. Hear first from Dr. Martin Luther King, reporting on his meeting with the President about last Sunday's Alabama bombing.
I don't think it is now at the point that the Negroes are going out shooting and are going out to engage in retaliatory violence. But I'm convinced that if something isn't done, and some of the steps aren't taken that we have suggested, there is a danger that out of despair, desperation, and frustration, some Negroes will not follow the advice that we will give on nonviolence.
Hear also from James Baldwin, the distinguished Negro author.
I want to say that one of the reasons for Birmingham, and this is an accusation, is not only Governor Wallace who is responsible for it. It is the apathy of the citizenry, and it is also the responsibility of the FBI, which has not managed to find a single guilty party, though there have been over 45 bombings in Alabama and over 20 in Birmingham. Now, if they've been looking for these people, it is not possible that they could not have found them. These things which menace the lives of Negroes daily and demoralize Negroes daily, not only in the South but all over the nation, menace the country, though you may not know it. As long as I, an American citizen, am not free here and am menaced here, and my children cannot go to Sunday school safely here, something terrible is happening to you. And if you do not do anything to stop it, there will be blood in the streets, not because any Negro leader has called for it, not because anyone has turned away from the Christian gospel, but because you, the American people, have never lived up to your professions and long ago threw away your Bible. It is a scandal that in a civilized country on high noon on Sunday, the children can be murdered in what we call the house of God.
And finally, hear from Dick Gregory.
That I understand the beauty of the nonviolent movement. After getting involved with the nonviolent movement, it made me a better person for one thing, because I lost bitterness for everything. I could never hate no man the world over. And then in getting involved, I also found out that there's many things in the world worth dying for, but I haven't found the thing that's worth killing for.
It's realized now by most Americans that things can never be the same again. The white diehards of the South will go on jailing Negroes and beating them and probably bombing them, but they will not win. President Kennedy was clear on this when he addressed the United Nations 4 days ago.
Man does not live by bread alone, and the members of this organization are committed by the Charter to promote and respect human rights. Those rights are not respected when a Buddhist priest is driven from his pagoda, when a synagogue is shut down, when a Protestant church cannot open a mission, when a cardinal is forced into hiding, or when a crowded church service is bombed. The United States of America is opposed to discrimination and persecution on grounds of race and religion anywhere in the world, including our own nation.
In accepting that the Negroes will get their break sometime, it's important to realize that as far as they're concerned, that time must be now.
Today is we are a different group of people mentally. 30 and 40 years ago, less 20 years ago, the American Negro had an empty stomach. Today, every Negro in America has a full stomach, but a hungry mind. And I think it's something that people all over the world should understand. The American Negro will not be told any longer that it's going to take time to solve this problem. It's no more time. You don't want a man to tell us that we're going to get it, but we have to understand. We're out demonstrating in the street. The social revolution is on, and it's going to stay on until the Negroes receive full rights. We don't want these rights tomorrow. We don't want them next week. We don't want them tonight. We want what we are demanding right this minute.
This edition of World in Action was prepared in the United States and comes from New York.